Let's turn to business. Yuka joins us here in the studio. A very good evening to you. The European Union has formally promised a new round of sanctions against Russia.
Well, Mark, if approved by member states, it will be the 18th round of sanctions since February of 2022. The package mainly targets Moscow's energy revenues and banks. The aim is to pressure Russia into accepting a 30-day unconditional ceasefire. The plan includes a ban on the use of the Nord Stream pipelines between Russia and Germany, although the underwater pipelines are currently not operational. The proposal ramps up the crackdown on the so-called shadow fleet of oil tankers, adding 77 more vessels to an existing blacklist of 342. The EU is also calling for lowering the price cap on Russian oil from $60 a barrel to $45. Here's the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen speaking earlier.
Oil exports still represent 1/3 of Russia's government revenues. We need to cut this source of revenues. The oil price cap is a G7 coalition measure, so we will discuss at G7 in Canada at the end of this week or beginning of next week how to act together.
Ursula von der Leyen there. The world economy is set for the weakest run since 2008 outside of recessions, according to a new forecast.
The World Bank has released an update to its Global Economic Prospects report, slashing growth forecasts for nearly 70% of economies around the world. Global GDP is projected to expand by just 2.3% this year. That's the weakest performance in 17 years outside of outright recessions. Although it does not expect a global recession this year, the World Bank expects average global growth in the first 7 years of the 2020s to be the slowest of any decade since the 1960s. A majority of developing economies are also set to experience slower growth, adding to their already weakening growth trend. Many of them are commodity exporters and will have to deal with very nasty market conditions if Donald Trump's higher tariffs were to remain in place. This, in turn, would hamper their efforts to spur growth, jobs and reduce poverty, Mark.
French senators have passed a bill designed to rein in fast fashion, which critics say don't nearly go far enough.
Well, this legislation is designed to crack down on the rapidly growing industry that's estimated to be responsible for 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Estimates for the global market size varies between 150 billion euros to 200 billion euros. But in France alone, the value of advertised fast fashion products grew from 2.3 billion euros in 2010 to 3.2 billion euros in 2023. Around 48 clothing items are released into the French market per person every year, and 35 are thrown away every second, according to the State Environmental Agency, ADEME. The initial bill, adopted unanimously by the lower house of parliament, contained a ban on advertising fast fashion and a bonus-malus system based on environmental labelling. But the right-leaning Senate amended the bill to mainly target Asian online giants like Shein and Temu, while protecting French and European brands such as Zara, H&M and Kiabi that have physical stores and pay taxes. Environmental labelling was dropped and penalties for advertising now only apply to influencers. Now, a final text will be drafted by a joint committee of both chambers of parliament from September before it can become law.
OK, so that raises the question for me, what is ultra-fast fashion? Yuka.
Well, contrary to the old-style traditional fashion industry in which sellers decide on their collections for the next season, fast fashion is characterized by high turnaround of fashion lines at a cheap cost, and ultra-fast fashion goes even faster. They do this through a new business model that relies on influencers and social media for marketing, a faster supply chain using small local factories that ship their items directly to customers and produce them in small batches. It's based on micro-trending, where designers constantly monitor feedback and adjust their fashion lines based on consumer demands and release new models on a weekly or even daily basis. Shein is a pioneer in this. It prides itself in its on-demand business model, arguing it's more environmentally friendly because it can avoid overconsumption and excess inventory. And that business model has been the driving force behind its exponential growth. The Asian giant's annual net sales have increased from a mere $1.4 billion in 2018 to nearly $50 billion last year, far ahead of its rivals like Zara and H&M. This explains why French senators argued the bill needed to address their threat to local businesses as well, Mark.
Finally, for this business bulletin, Eurostar is planning to offer new direct trains to Germany and to Switzerland.
Well, the new routes will connect London to Frankfurt and Geneva, and from Amsterdam and Brussels to Geneva, although they won't open until the early 2030s. Now, Eurostar plans to invest €2 billion into the new services, adding 50 trains, expanding its fleet by about 30%. The company previously announced a target of carrying 30 million passengers a year by 2030. The announcement comes as Eurostar's three-decade monopoly in the Channel Tunnel is looking likely to end, with other railway operators signalling plans to open their own services on the rail line.